Let's break down some of the top names in the MLB draft up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Monday, July 15th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by the returning Chris the Welsh, and we will break down the top 5 in first-year player drafts, according to the Welsh's rankings. And number 1, no surprise, the Guardians selected second baseman Travis Bazzana first overall in the draft. He is your number 1 player as well, known mostly for his hit tool. But what type of player are you projecting long-term here with Travis Bazzana?
Yeah, I think it's a dream on type of player. And by the way, this won't be the consensus because 1 and 2, I think, are going to be argued in first-year player this year. But there is so much to like about Travis Bazzana. Had an over 40% barrel rate in college, 96 plus average exit velocity, one of the lowest chase rates, one of the lowest on slider miss rates overall, makes great contact, gets the ball in the air, and tremendous bat speed, and just something to think about. After he just hit 28 homers, which was a big boost, we've seen an increase for left-handed hitters' homers in Cleveland, and he is a lefty. So if there's any questions about, all this power kind of came out of nowhere, there's a ballpark benefit for a guy that barrels, hits the ball really hard, gets it in the air, and I think there's a tremendous floor with his lack of strikeouts and chase. So, you can argue, and we will argue about the next guy, but I think Bazzana presents a tremendous floor for middle infield for fantasy and tremendous upside as well.
If you want to dream big, someone that has hit, power, and speed joining a lineup that features Jose Ramirez, I mean, how can you not dream big on the possibilities there?
Hitting behind Kwan and in front of Ramirez, that's a dream come true.
Just crazy, crazy stuff. Number 2 in your rankings was the 3rd overall pick, Charlie Condon, who went to the Colorado Rockies. 21-year-old outfielder out of Georgia. Big dude, 6'6", massive power to all fields. Hit 37 homers in college this year. You mentioned there could be some arguments, 1 versus 2. Why do you have Condon 1 spot lower than Bazzana?
Yeah, and the argument, by the way, became much bigger as soon as he became a Colorado Rocky. A lot of people are like, if Condon becomes a Rocky, dreams come true. He's number 1. Well, that's coming into play here. I think the biggest, huge guy, by the way, 6'6". The question is going to be like, what ultimately does the hit tool do with the power? Because I don't think the power is in question. He had one of the best contact rates versus high velo in college this past year. He had really solid barrel rates as well. He hit over 400. The homers are ridiculous, but he was really bad against off speed, one of the worst against slider. And the slider percentage is interesting because it just use that as kind of like an off speed type of look. And what is that swing and miss ultimately going to look like? Plus, he's not like a big runner. He actually grades out decently. So if that upticks, this could change. But the argument might be, if he is a 240 hitter and hits 35 homers, but doesn't steal a lot of bases, how valuable is that versus Bazzana? If you want to dream higher, that high, contact rate versus velo and stuff is going to really translate, and he becomes a 280, 290 hitter and 40 plus homers. Okay, then you got Austin Riley. You're going to have an Austin Riley type of bat at third base. So I see all the arguments. To me, it's a little bit floor versus ceiling or floor versus risk. That's why I have Bazzana up, but you will see these two going back and forth in ranks.
Number 3 in your rankings was the 6th overall pick, Jack Caglione, one of the most fascinating players in the draft. 21 years old, a two-way player out of Florida. He's got big power, 35 home runs. He throws hard from the left-hand side. Welsh, is there a chance that, he turns into this slugging first baseman and also could be, a closer on the Royals or something like that?
So cue up Dumb and Dumber for me. So you're saying there's a chance. There's a slight chance. All right. They listed him as a two-way player, but that's, I think, is good. That's the Samsonite here. There's a slight chance that's going to happen. I don't think it will. I think most evaluators don't think it's going to, but this is a college guy who is just doing it, and maybe there's going to be some value at some part of, the front or the back end of a rotation. You never know. But it's the bat was why he was drafted. Just absolutely ridiculous power numbers. All the hard hit stuff works in his favor. He had like a 92% in zone contact percentage. It was just like you couldn't throw him anything in the zone where he wasn't making contact. He had some really bad chase numbers, which might be of a concern. Ground ball rates, so getting on top of balls, one of the worst chase rates, but he didn't strike out. So it's like this really weird dynamic of what's going to take. So hopefully the Royals can develop him, but he is a dream on power type of player.
Let's wrap up with number 4 and 5 in your rankings. You have Chase Burns, who was the first pitcher drafted. He went 2nd overall to the Reds. And JJ Weatherholt is number 5. He went 7th overall to the Cardinals. Welsh, what do you have on Chase Burns and JJ Weatherholt?
Absolutely love Chase Burns. Massive stuff, massive strikeout upside. Fastballs high up in the zone, big spinny slider. He's going to get a lot of chase and whiffs. It's just going to be, where's the command going to go? It's a pretty good organization to develop. I think we should be very high on him as the top pitcher. And JJ Weatherholt, he's kind of a powered down version of Bazzana. A lot of the same, like doesn't chase, doesn't strike out, makes a lot of contact. I actually think you could compare him to the current-ish version, maybe with a higher batting average, of Corbin Carroll, where it's like, I think his swing is very similar. The way he front loads and then the way the bat hits the zone, it kind of goes all fields. I don't know if he's ever tap into huge power, but I do think it could be, 10 to 12. He could steal 30-plus bases, make a lot of good contact, hit at the top of the order. So he might not have some of the big power projections, maybe RBI stuff, but JJ Weatherholt, a very good bet. And it's a pretty decent top 5 first-year player. It's just kind of falls off after that a bit.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.